We have Meeka Jennings today, and interesting note is that Meeka is sister with Katie Cooper. So Katie, if you could stand up and wave.
Oh, God.
You have to do these things. And so Katie was in my intro to entrepreneurship class last semester. So I think it was pretty fun for her to see her sister come in and visit with you all. So a little bit about Meeka. She's the CEO of TLC Equities and also a licensed real estate agent. Ball State alum from very recent, 2021. So interesting time to be graduating from college, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Been recognized as a finalist for the Young Entrepreneur of the Year and the Spirit of Small Business Awards. Soon to be a mom. You know, you're never supposed to assume those things, but she told us, which is good. And really wants to inspire people with her entrepreneurial spirit and commitment to excellence. So I like that. That's nice. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So Meeka, can you share a little bit about your story and what inspired you to start your business?
Yeah, sure. So I was bartending at a brewery. I'll keep it short, Elm Street Brewery. And I moved into a duplex my senior year on campus, and I noticed that the upstairs was empty. Well, the owner of the brewery, his wife is like a master curator. She loves to furnish and design spaces. And so I asked her, I was like, hey, I don't know a whole lot about this, but I know you have a lot of extra furniture. Would you consider maybe making the upstairs an Airbnb? And I will clean it and message the guests, and in return, I can like subsidize my rent and get cheaper rent. Fast forward, they started paying me to live downstairs, and it was kind of like an untapped Muncie market that we didn't really realize was such, like Airbnb was really new at that point still. So that's how we started, and once we had that first Airbnb, it was probably in the first 4 or 5 listed in Muncie, and now fast forward to now we have like 110 listings in Muncie. So that's like skyrocketed in just, a couple of years. But we realized that there were no other really alternative short-term rentals that were furnished, and definitely no management companies. And that's what I had realized, and especially at scale. So I guess the solution there was I started to do it part-time, and eventually I went full-time with it, but I just noticed a need in the market, and I enjoyed doing it, so I just kind of filled that need.
So whether you're an entrepreneurship student, leadership student, no matter what you go into, you said yes. There was an opportunity, someone presented it to you, you said yes.
Yes.
And it went from there.
Yes, essentially, and I just kind of took with it like my values, and I feel like everyone deserves like clean, safe, accessible, nothing that I wouldn't want to stay in. So just being that bridge for investors to the consumer was really important for me.
So what would you say is the most significant challenge that you faced as a leader?
Yeah. I would definitely say for me personally and with the business, it was going from part-time to full-time. I was selling business-to-business wholesale jewelry at a local jewelry shop as like my full-time gig, and then I was doing this Airbnb thing with all of my extra time. And so that for me was huge to say, okay, I'm no longer going to do this that is kind of just showing up to an office and making lots of calls, and I'm going to do like a labor of love that feels really, significant, and also I see a lot more potential for growth. So I did that, and then I would definitely say that was my biggest challenge, making it legal, getting the LLC, figuring out what it means to file with the state, and just doing all those different logistic things, creating more marketing material, trying to reach out to more investors to put more Airbnbs on the market, finding quality people who care about their properties is, as we all know, sometimes kind of hard to find in Muncie. So that, and then also just a continual problem that I wouldn't necessarily call it a problem, but something that you kind of have to take heed on is having a quality cleaning staff, and just making sure that you don't have like a big turnover and you're constantly changing employees. So finding like reliable and people that are willing to follow like a structure has been kind of an ongoing thing that you just kind of always have to take into consideration, I'd say.
What kind of setbacks have you had?
Well, now I would say because there are 100, let's say 110 Airbnb listings in Muncie at any given time, I think we're starting to reach like a market penetration where the Muncie market can only hold around that many Airbnbs, but I'm still getting a lot of calls from investors and people saying, hey, Airbnb, I see your name, I see you're the one doing it, let's make one together. And now, because there's this market penetration, that's kind of a sticky conversation to say, okay, well, we can furnish this space, but I can't guarantee it's gonna make you money. Is that something you still wanna do? You know, because a couch and a TV and all of the things, it gets pretty expensive really fast to make it be that quality that I feel like everyone deserves, and I won't take on anything that isn't. So that's been a challenge or something that we've kind of had to deal with in the past, I would say 8 months to a year now, of just, and there's nobody really else out there doing it at scale, so I kind of have to like look at the Muncie market and see our occupancy rates and stuff and just kind of decide for myself, okay, do I think we are at the market has enough of them, and is everyone going to make money, or if we add more, is it going to take money from other people? So that's been an interesting and ongoing challenge slash setback, or however you want to phrase it.
So has that kind of competition, has that helped maybe you be more selective with who you take on?
Absolutely. So I was a product of bad property management when I was in college, as I'm sure some of you guys are currently dealing with. And so I really just wanted to, like when I started this, obviously I'm doing furnished rentals, but I really wanted to be a catalyst in the change of like rewriting the property management narrative in Muncie to be more positive. And through that, you have to really choose investors and people who own these homes that actually care about their property, not just, don't care about anything and don't want me to call, maintenance people to come out to the properties. I like if you're staying in my property, it's got to be clean, safe, accessible, all of the things, and has to be in a space that, like I said, I wouldn't mind staying at. So I've definitely had to turn down some people that used to have their property listed with Middletown, just for example, and I'm like, okay, well, this is a long way, like I'll tour it, and I'm like, this is a long way from being something that I would take on. Like, we need new floors, we need to paint the whole house, like we needed to do a whole bathroom revamp. So it's definitely been a selective process, but that's kind of in turn like part of like my value system with my company, and what I wanted to do with it wasn't just to take on everything that comes my way. At some point you kind of do have to be selective with it.
So in that vein, can you talk a little bit about leadership and how when you don't, like those people don't report to you per se, it's not a formal, supervisory relationship, but you need to have influence over them. Like, how do you go about doing that?
So I have two different clienteles, and this is just property management in general, which is the owner of the home and the people staying in the home, and you're kind of the middle ground to make sure both parties are happy. And the way that I do that with the investors is we just have a monthly meeting where we get square on our dollar signs, and I kind of give them a little, whether it's 2 sentences or a paragraph of what's been going on in their property this year. You got 2 or 3 5-star reviews, or we had to call the plumbing company because, and that's why you see this extra charge. So I always check in with them 12 times a year at the first of every month, and they know to expect that. So that keeps our relationship open and have good communication. And then on the guest interface side of things, the guests get tons of messages from me throughout their stay. When they first book the property, the day before they check in, the day after they check in, to make sure things are going well. Here's your checkout information, safe travels home. So there's lots of now automated messages that get sent out to guests that I think really help keep them happy and feel like we're having good communication, and they're not just like, okay, I showed up to this house. It's not a hotel. I'm in a random neighborhood. Like, am I at the right place? You know? So that's how I keep in contact with the guests.
That's good, because a lot of times you have to have influence when you don't have formal authority.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
So it sounds like you've done a really good job of managing that and those relationships.
Yeah.
You completed the entrepreneurial leadership instrument assessment. Your style was a builder. For those of you in Dr. Dixon's class, generally that means like someone who values systems, processes, efficiency, growing a business. We've kind of heard these things, right, out of Meeka. So I guess the first question is, how do you do you think that describes you as your preference in how you lead and how you approach a venture?
I think in the business world, it definitely, so I'm in the inner band. So like I'm a builder, but I still kind of lean, I forget what the other style was, but I'm in the inner band. So I can definitely see other pieces of me, but I definitely agree that I had to be a builder to some capacity, to lead and motivate people like my cleaning crew, to keep them happy that, you know, they're constantly changing sheets on bed at some point. Like, you know, they appreciate the $10 Starbucks card saying, hey, I know you have 3 cleans a day, enjoy something, you know. But I also find myself exploiting opportunity as opposed to exploring it, in the sense of like, I didn't just come up with like my business idea out of thin air and be like, yep, I want to start a candle company, which was one thing I just thought I wanted to do like my sophomore year of college, but I never went anywhere. Anyways, all that to say, I saw an actual need in the community and I exploited that, and I think that's like definitely true of a builder. But separately, I also, like in the business that I'm in, like there's definitely a strong need for systems. And for example, I'm talking about the cleaning gals a lot, but that's a lot of the ins and outs of our business is, are they following a specific checklist for each individual house? And what software are we using to make sure that, you know, if we're low on this cleaning supplies, I know to restock it, or, you know, we probably need more toilet paper before the next guests arrive. So what software am I using for that? What software am I using for, you know, when I do communicate with the homeowners, or that messaging system that's automated that goes out to the guests? Like, what am I using for that? I had to build all those different systems just to make my job and my life easier and better for the guests, but also for myself. So.
Okay, so on the flip side of that, how would you say you've worked with other people, or in your daily processes to kind of complement that style, but also to fill the other needs?
Yeah, so this is funny, but my sister has helped me a lot with the designing of some of these properties. And so that's kind of been, she's definitely like a very artistic style, I would say. And so that really complements me, because a lot of times you'll get these houses and, like I said, it needs all new paint, or we have to put up wallpaper so it like is unique and cool. And she's helped me with a lot of vision boards and getting a lot of the pieces of furniture together and just curating a unique space. And so that's, like I said, a different builder style that's helped me. And then on the opposite piece of that, some of the investors, there's one in particular that owns, let's say, I think he has 10 Airbnbs in Muncie, and I manage all of them for him. An out-of-state investor that actually does care about his properties. I know, it's crazy. But, and he has really helped me with logistics and just kind of being a mentor in that building aspect of business. So honestly, without those two, I probably wouldn't be here, so.
Yeah, very good. It's important to put people around you, right? You talked about like reviewing like customer reviews, and some are positive, some are negative. When you're working through those types of things, how do you keep things positive? How do you keep the people you're working with, how do you empower them, but also hold them accountable? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, that's an ongoing thing. In terms of empowering them and making them excited and feel like they're part of like a real team, I like to get together on TLC's birthday, like the year that we filed with the state and it became official, and give them extra supplies and flowers or whatnot. And when we have like a new cleaning girl that joins the team, I always like to take them to dinner and either write them a card or again get them flowers or just like something to show my gratitude for them. We always get a Christmas bonus. So those are like, and again, maybe a text with a Starbucks gift card on it before they head out to work that day. So that's how I like to empower them and keep them excited and be like, yeah, this, I might have to change 10 beds today, but it's not that bad. And I have the Starbucks drink, so it's gonna be okay. But, sorry, can you repeat the other part of that? I forget.
Just because there's negative things too.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you balance the positive and the positive culture with also having to deal with some accountability?
Yeah. So like I had said, sometimes with the cleaning staff, if it's their first time cleaning, a lot of times they don't know where the book goes on the shelf or something like that. And so I do quality control a lot of the cleans that the girls do. And I simply just try to keep it professional at all times. And there's been times where that's been easier to do, and there's been times when that's been tougher to do. And you'll walk in and be like, oh my gosh, I have to clean this whole house again, and the guest shows up in 2 hours. But there's also been, so generally what I do is I just take a picture of how it was before, fix it, take a picture of how it's supposed to be, and then I follow up with them with a text message that's just clean, professional, basic, just says, hey, I know, I just want to uphold some standard of quality here. This is how it was, this is how I prefer it to be in the future, no problems, just want to make sure we're clear, like moving forward the next time you clean. So that's how I deal with that. But then on the guest side, if there was a bad review, which we never want bad reviews, but I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now, you'll always get at least one bad review, right? And that is public. And when you go to book an Airbnb, you're always looking at the reviews. So if you do have a bad review, I think it's very important how you respond to that as a business and say, hey, thank you for your review. We've definitely taken this into consideration, talked to the appropriate staff. These are the changes that we have made from your stay, and we would love to host you again and show you, what we've done to make things better. So that piece of it is, you can always fall into someone or a person's negativity or lack of showing up, like for the cleaner side of things. But with professionalism, telling them that you hear them, that you're changing something about it and welcoming them back to see what you've done to change it. And that has actually made people book with me the next time they come to Muncie so that they could see it. So yeah, that's exciting, and that's generally the way I've handled that.
Okay. You talked about a mentor you had. In general, have you had any other mentors or people that have really breathed into you, and just maybe your support network and how that's impacted how you lead and how you approach this venture?
Yeah, so because Airbnb was very new when I first started out doing it, I found myself relying very heavily on Facebook groups of other people that were doing Airbnbs, maybe in Indianapolis or Maine or somewhere else, just to kind of create some sort of community, because like I said, I felt like I was the only one in Muncie doing it at the time. And then since then, there's been a couple other people in Muncie, for example, Rebecca Hanna. She's super cool real estate, probably one of the top real estate agents in Muncie, and she's poured a lot of life into me and talked to me a lot. She has 3 or 4 of her own Airbnbs. So on the real estate side, she's mentored me a bit, but she's also, we've been able to create a community together of Airbnb hosts in Muncie. And that's really nice. But yeah, the investor, Kevin, he's been a great influence for me as well in terms of mentorship. So I kind of have to grab it from all different places. and be intentional about that. But
And kind of be yourself still, though.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Good. So how does your business and leadership style, how does that reflect your values? Be kind of the first part of this. And then how do you kind of stay within your purpose? Like how do you kind of keep on track?
By giving hard no's. And I've, in my past, been sort of a people pleaser, but my values are truly that, like, anyone that is staying in one of my properties does not have to worry about the hot water, does not have to worry about mold, does not have to worry about things that plague general property management. And so finding people that really want to uphold that standard with me of, the clean, the safe, accessible piece to things is really my values. And so I've had to tell people no, or I've taken on an investor and realized that they weren't willing to do the things that we had previously talked about. So I had to tell them, I can't take this project anymore, which is like kind of a hard conversation to have for sure. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't going to be something positive for my business and was going to not be the standard that I needed it to be, then I had to eventually tell them no, So that's kind of been a harder thing, but
if you don't do that, you lose who you
I lose
are,
sight of
right?
what the whole purpose of this was to be, which was, to make property management in some capacity, furnished, a little bit better.
Yeah.
So.
Good. As far as the impact you hope your business will have on the community, and those people around you, and maybe on society as a whole, like what's the bigger why?
Oh, if you would have asked me that 2 years ago, what my why was and what my vision for the next 5-10 years for my business was, I would tell you, get my real estate license, have someone hold it for 2 years, become my own broker, which is just a little bit more schooling, so that's not that bad, and create a property management company that can then manage long-term rentals as well, and take on some properties so that when I was sitting in your guys' chairs, I had a landlord that I was excited to rent from, and I felt safe and comfortable in their house, right? Now, I'm 9 months pregnant, and this is actually a conversation that I was having with a few other mentors and the owner of another real estate company and the owner of Campus Rentals, and they were asking me what my goals were. They've changed. After talking, to my husband and them, I realized that my goals have really shifted, and I no longer think that I need to, or I guess I would still love to do it, but I'm feeling less ambitious in terms of how much I really need to scale this business. And I think part of that is honestly just what does motherhood look like? I don't know yet. This is my first child, and being able to be, if this job that I work currently is 25, 30 hours a week because I've systematized it down to that. Do I really need more? I should focus on motherhood, essentially, is where I've gotten. So my outlook for now is to just have someone hold my real estate license, continue to learn a little bit about property management after maternity leave, and decide then what I really, how big I want to scale this. Because at first, I thought I needed to just conquer the world and definitely Muncie. And now I'm not sure if that really aligns to what makes me the happiest. And that's kind of a hard thing to get to, I guess, because you really just want to be queen of everything and just do as much as you possibly can. And then when you backtrack, you're okay, is that really what's going to actually bring me the most fulfilled life? I don't know. So that's kind of what I've been personally dealing with.
So going a little further on that work-life integration,
Yeah.
You're in the middle of some changes. Could you talk a little bit about just the importance of really soul searching and making decisions that are best for you and your family versus maybe imposing other people's will on yourself?
Yeah, I mean, if I could, I would be having 10 different full-time jobs. But realizing that, I don't want to go into someone else's office and work for them. And that's a major piece of why I chose to do what I'm doing and go full-time with what I'm doing, is that I don't really have to go into someone else's office, and I can schedule my work day or how I want it to be scheduled, and I don't have to work 40 hours if I can get it all done in 25. And so just having that freedom to be able to choose and to, you really do have to just take some time to evaluate what makes you the happiest. And in some seasons, and especially for myself, that was grind nonstop and work 40, 50, maybe even 60 hours, and that's what my life looked like. But now I've been forced to slow down a little bit, and I've really kind of had to reevaluate, what does make me happy, and I don't know that it's, working a ton of hours and, this job plus other jobs to then be able to get a broker's license to have my own company, well, a bigger overarching company, I guess. So yeah, that's taken a lot of early morning thoughts to myself, bedtime thoughts to myself, and I get, this sounds silly, but what regulates my nervous system the most is not working as much as I have previously. So slowing down has been really, really great to be able to think about what I want my future to be.
It seems like you have a focus on excellence. Like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it really well. And sometimes that does mean scaling back what you're committed to or what you're doing. So is there anything else you would add to that?
No, I don't think so, but I do agree that I've kind of had to scale back a little bit of what my initial ambitions were in order to lead a life that I truly felt was my purpose.
If you could share one piece of advice for the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs, what would that be?
I was thinking about this, and I guess one thing that I see in real life that happens to a lot of people, and I see it honestly happening to my brother right now, who is a lot of your guys' age, is that you lay in decision fatigue for too long. It's okay to go home and be like, oh my gosh, my mind is whirling, I have 10 different ideas, I don't know which one to choose. But if you lay in the decision fatigue for too long, there will always be 100 different options for things that you could pursue. And if you could narrow that down and get your list to 2 or 3 and then just choose one of them, you're going to be better off. And I would personally focus on things that are concrete and have a real demand, and then you can solve real problems instead of just pulling something out of the air and saying, yep, I've never heard of this, but I'm going to do it. Just try to focus on something that can really create value where you're at, because that'll also help you have a strong value proposition. If you're having a pitch deck and you're saying, this is my business, this is the problem, this is my solution, and you're quick elevator pitch, if you can have a good, again, value proposition to say, this is the need, this is what I'm fixing, this is how we're fixing it, you'll be a lot better off, I think. And maybe that's my style talking, but that's what I found success in. So.
And from a leadership standpoint, you're going to be more effective if you're pursuing something that there's a need for,
yeah,
and that you care about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect to start. Just start it and do it. And I think once you have those years under your belt, even if it doesn't work out, you have something to reflect on that you can say, this is what I did with that time, and this is what I'm now doing. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Try to find something real and just go with it sooner than later, because you can always build on it and make it better. So,
looking ahead, where do you see your business, your relationships in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so in the next 5 years to 10 years, I'll definitely be a mom at that point. But I'd like to sit on, I've been thinking about what is my role, and I realized that I likely won't scale my business too much more unless the Muncie market can withhold that. So right now I'm not taking on any more investors to create more furnished properties, and I'm not working in long-term property management right now. But I would like to start working and utilizing a lot of connections I've created with our local city, to sit on like the travel and tourism board and what that looks like to bring visitors here, and sitting on maybe a couple different boards to help voice my opinion in a way that, you know, the same 80-year-olds that have sat on that board for 5, 10, 20 years just keep getting comfortable and nothing gets done, right? So I think I would like to be, that could be something that I could create a large impact for in an overarching way, as opposed to like going and sitting at a desk and working for someone else to learn more about real estate or property management. So yeah, that's.
There's a lot of ways to be a leader in your community.
Absolutely.
And the causes you care about.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm just curious who like your target markets, like your target customers are for the Airbnbs.
Yeah, so target market is definitely all of your guys' parents. A lot of parents, I get a lot of parents for sports teams here and there. I get a lot of travel nurses, travel ultrasound techs, traveling construction people. Like for example, I don't know if you guys have noticed that you have a lot of construction on campus. I'm housing a lot of them. There's a lot of power line work, so they've rented out like my 9-bedroom place for a year that's furnished. And so yeah, definitely workers and your guys' families. And then you'd be surprised, but there's a lot of dog shows in Muncie. What in the world? I don't know. I know, but they show up all the time, so many of them, and they want a fenced-in backyard, and having 3 show dogs in a small hotel room isn't like, you know, that great, so they all book Airbnbs. So super random, but
maybe Muncie can aspire to the Puppy Bowl someday.
Yeah. Oh, and then also AMA. It's like a local, like model planes. They host like the national championships here, and they also host a lot of other different things here. So they rent like I'm hosting their whole Ecuadorian team, which is like 20 people in like 2 months, which is wild. I never would have thought that I would see that, but.
So again, influence. You have to meet all these influencers yourself and become an influence on them.
Yeah. I go to a lot of marketing like stuff with the Visitors Bureau, and I'm in some groups, so.
So you have to be engaged.
Yeah.
Okay, so you heard it. Your parents, your families, you want to visit their website, right? Because you know she preaches excellence and clean places, well taken care of. So what's the website for that?
Yeah, it's just tlcequities.com. But in general, if you're just browsing on Airbnb, you'll find my name anywhere. So yeah, you can always go to my website, which will then take you to that specific listing on Airbnb to book, or you can, like I said, if you're searching and browsing Muncie Airbnbs, you will inevitably see my name. So.
Okay, so if you could share one kind of closing, like key message for our future leaders out there, what would it be?
I feel like it was what I already said, which was it doesn't have to be perfect, and don't lay in decision fatigue for too long. Just choose something and go for it, honestly.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do now is, which I don't know if we have a phone up here, but we're going to do like a selfie with you all in the background. We're going to be careful not to fall. Yes. Perfect. Or I'll tell you what, do you want to stand behind and not do the selfie? Because I don't get selfies. I'm way too old for that.
Don't like selfies, okay.
So you might want to get on the stage. It would be like a fake selfie. Okay.
Very nice.
All right, so what we're going to do now, very carefully here, is we are going to, that's pretty good in those heels. 9 months, that's pretty impressive. I'd be falling all over the place. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is take questions. So we're just gonna work the audience here a little bit. You'll be second, we're gonna go here first.
Shorter walk. So
Yeah.
what's something that you learned or like a piece of advice that you learned like in college or before that you really, it stuck with you and kind of helped inspire you to build what you've built today?
I can't think of a specific piece of advice other than after my freshman year, I did not know what in the world I wanted to do with my life. And I was so stressed, and I was working as a bartender, and I was full-time student, and I just had a million different things on my plate. And someone told me, hey, you know, you don't have to go back to school in the fall. Like, you should maybe just take a semester off. And that semester off truly, it made me realize that I love learning, because my roommates were all still going to school, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out, and I'm going to tailgates, but like I'm not even a student. Like, I feel like, what even am I? But it gave me time to slow down a little bit, figure out what it meant to pay bills, be out of my parents' house, all of the things, and again, like, have a season of alignment of, okay, what really does make me happy, and does meteorology make me happy? Not really, so I'm gonna switch that, you know? So I think really just like take time to realize what what's really important to you, and if that is a week or that's a month, that's okay. Just like find a safe place for yourself and like really figure out what you're passionate about and like go from there. I don't know if that answers it, but that's what I have.
Okay, I actually happen to have a few questions.
Sure.
So I actually started real estate at 16. I'm very young.
Yeah.
So I started real estate wholesaling, if you know what that is. Do you happen to know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
So I started wholesaling. So in that case, I was always the kid to say I didn't necessarily need college. And I didn't come to college until now. I'm actually a freshman. I'm 21-year-old freshman. I sold my first deal when I was younger, so I per se looked at that as if I didn't necessarily need college. So after doing so, I felt as if that gave me a good eye-opener of what real life actually is before coming to college right after high school, which I also look around kind of and realize not a lot of people realize what real life is actually outside of schooling, because they're still kind of getting taken care of. So after that, now I want to say I used to wholesale on-market properties. Instead of pre-foreclosures, I'm stepping into pre-foreclosures, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
So my per se is, I realize with you, you're like trying to settle on a little bit more of what you already have built. I was wondering if like, is there a way like, of what made you decide you don't want to scale any more of your business? Because I personally want to be a multimillionaire. So to do that, you'll have to do 10 times more work than the normal person. So for that, what made you decide that you actually genuinely just want to settle for what you have and you are okay with what you got?
That's kind of a hard thing, because you always want like more nice clothes, and you always want a nicer house, and you know, different things like that. But as long as my bills are paid, and I will say I have a husband that like totally takes care of me, and so I'm really lucky in that. And he does buy a lot of foreclosed on properties and like redevelops them. So I am very blessed to say like I don't have a house payment, you know, I don't have to, like my car's paid off, like I don't have those things. So that maybe puts me in a different position. Also, this is like new. But if I could give you advice, use college like to create so many different connections. Like, because you know what real life is like. And some people come straight out of high school and they haven't, you know, they've lived with their mom their whole life, and they will go back to live with their mom, and like, you know what real life is like. So use this to leverage as many different relationships as you can, because no matter where you go in the United States, you know, whether it's in Muncie or anywhere, like, not everyone lives in Indiana that goes to this school, and definitely not your professors. And if you can get letters of recommendation or mentorship from people, like, use it as an adult and not as a child. And I didn't realize that that was something that like you should take seriously, probably until like my junior or senior year. But again, I don't think that really happened until I took some time off from college and came back and realized like, okay, like it's not just school and like I can haphazardly show up, you know. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Another thing, did you have to use like loans and banks to actually fund the things that you have to do, or did you just create enough equity so you're able to do the things that you're able to do?
Yeah, so I don't own any of the houses. So anyone that owns the houses is putting up that money and they send me a credit card and I spend on it.
So
That's how that's happened. I know that sounds so bad, but it is true.
Do you feel as if wholesaling would be a great way to create owning your own to have enough equity? Because what my plan
yeah.
was to like scale enough equity to actually buy my first fix and flip to actually own the properties. So I'm the one that's flipping it and getting enough equity.
Yeah, I would also say utilize tax sales and deed sales. Like, because you can go to the deed sale in Muncie and get the house that day with cash for $2,000, $3,000, which is money, but it's like when you're thinking of a whole house and you can just do paint and floors and like, you know, especially if you know the trades yourself, like you can really make some like quick equity on stuff like that. Yeah. Tax sales and deed sales are everywhere too. Yeah.
Very good questions. It's always nice when you find your avenue in an industry where you don't have to put up a lot of the investment,
Yeah.
right? Which you found that. You found the need.
Thank
Right.
God. Mm-hmm.
And you built relationships, made it happen. Questions? Okay.
Yeah, so you had mentioned before that you were, if you were to go in more of the long-term market, you were also thinking about kind of like that, if I'm correct, like more of like kind of Muncie tourism kind of things like that, like touring, whatnot. Obviously, there's a lot of like historical properties in Muncie. Would you consider maybe flipping? Well, like, not necessarily flipping, but like kind of managing those properties and maybe like revitalizing the area a little bit to kind of like corner both those markets there.
Yeah, so my family has a lot of stakes in like the historical Gilbert district. And that is like a lot of what my husband does is take old properties and make them new again. Like, I don't know if any of you have heard of the North Church venue, but it's like an old historical property that is now like a really cool venue in Muncie. But I also kind of helped the school do a little bit with the Maplewood Mansion, which is where they host like some master's students. But yeah, I really love, like I live in a historical district now, and the only thing that is difficult with that, and this is just me speaking candidly, is when you see the architecture that's in those places as it sits, but still like degrading, the cost to fix it doesn't like you're not gonna sell for that price. So it almost has to be a labor of love to know that you're probably gonna lose money, but you're gonna uphold this historical, beautiful thing that can't be recreated. So that's kind of hard, but I absolutely would love to do more of that stuff. And I think that's kind of part of what I'm looking to do with like I partner with the Visitors Bureau, and we talk about like different tours that we could create for people visiting that would get people in these places more, to create more of an appreciation, and just make it more accessible to people. Because I think if you're appreciating it and it's accessible and you can actually use it, then funding dollars come in to keep them nice. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
More questions?
I like that he's walking around.
I was just wondering, do you have an executive team, or is it just you as the CEO right now?
I wear so many hats. Yeah, it's just me, but
I have a second half. So with that, what's your plan for while you're on maternity leave? Do you have people who can wear your hats?
yeah, it's gonna be my sister. I'm gonna pay her to take over. Yeah, she knows the ins and outs. She was the first person that I really started to pay to help me with things, and she also has her own company, so I don't know how she's gonna do all of it, but like I said, I have narrowed it down. Like, to sustain myself, I really only have to work like 25 30 hours a week, maybe, and that kind of ebbs and flows with the week. Sometimes I can get away with less. So I don't think it'll be something like super huge for her. And also, like if you think about if a guest has a need, they're going to message on the app, and I can message back on the app. So a lot of my work can be done on my phone, like managing our calendars and stuff like that. So I guess if I'm taking care of a baby, I can still be on my phone. Like I would probably be on my phone anyways, you know, so.
All right, other questions?
Do you want to share a microphone?
Sure.
Okay.
So I have a follow-up question from one of the earlier questions you got asked up there. You said one of the challenges was how to make your business legal, what's an LLC, what it means to file with the state. Let's say you have an idea for a business, but you're not sure where to get the answers for those questions. You don't necessarily have prior experience. Where would you go to find out that information? What would you do?
So
Did everybody hear that? Okay.
he essentially just asked, like, if you're trying to file an LLC, where do you go to get information on how to do that if you've never done it before? Great question. I had someone that had done it before show me how to do it, and now I am kind of working with the city and Impact Economics to create a how to do that, because I had no idea how to do that. And it's, but essentially you just go to like you type in file LLC Indiana, and you go to the state page, and it's basic. Like you have to pay $150, and it is like probably 30 minutes of your time, but it's very straightforward in terms of like once you get to that landing page, just go through each thing, know what your name is going to be, have your $150 ready, and then know that scammers are going to send you stuff in your mailbox saying that you owe money and you don't.
Yeah, you have to be really careful.
Yeah, so
The fakes
careful.
out there. So they'll upcharge to do a very easy thing.
Yeah.
Next class, we'll pull it up. We'll pull the Secretary of State website
That's
up
great.
in class so you can see it.
Very good. I would also recommend, like, when you file with the state and you're already sitting down to do these like legal, logistical, boring things, automatically go ahead and file your articles of incorporation as well, because that's how you're going to get your tax ID number to make business purchases. That's how you're going to, like for me, I need my articles of incorporation to like get like contracts or like just different things like that. So while you're already in the headspace to do it, it takes an extra 10 minutes to do that as well. And I suggest just doing it. So.
When trying to get like your LLC, should you also try to get your EIN number as well?
Yeah, that's your tax ID.
Correct.
Mhm.
Also with that, should you also try to use your LLC to get tax write-offs for your stuff that you use for your? I just want to educate them since already know, you know.
I use my business for a lot of tax write-offs. Mileage on my car, anytime I go to Walmart or Costco, that's a business expense. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what your business is, but absolutely use that for more than your personal, if that makes sense, if you can. And I guess it depends on what your business is, but in the long run, it'll just be a little bit cheaper. So I definitely recommend doing that for sure.
Loaded question there. Yeah, if it's related to the business, expense it. It'd be bad not to, right?
Yeah.
Who else?
Hi, so first of all, thank you for your time today. Second of all, so, you know, in forming an LLC, that's a goal I have in the future, so I'm sure many of us have a goal to be business owners or to be entrepreneurs in some way or another. What were some challenges that you found as like having a first time LLC and like maybe like imposter syndrome in the industry and just like coming in and, you know, being like, all right, I'm gonna make this business, and, you know, most businesses fail within 5 years. So how did you overcome those challenges, and what's something you learned with that?
I would say you're never going to conquer Rome in a day. That's like something we've all heard. So just one foot in front of the other. Just You know, you wake up that day, and as long as you've done one thing to reach this overarching goal, then you've done something right. You're not going to win every single time you do something, so learning how to deal with setbacks, and business aside, we've all dealt with personal setbacks, and how did you overcome that? You can use that to kind of figure out what you would do on the business side of things, what works for you. But I would also say, and this is like a random tidbit that someone told me one time, and I appreciate it because I didn't realize. When you create an LLC, like my company is technically TLC Equities LLC. Get rid of the LLC. You do not need to put that on all of your Facebook pages or your website or your email address. Like, if it's a real business, it's going to be an LLC. You don't have to tell people. And so that just like, I guess like for me, I was like, no, they need to know. Like, I don't know. But
Brand versus.
yeah, you just don't have to put it on everything. So I would recommend not, like, your business email does not have to have LLC in it. I just thought of that random thing. I just figured I would say, but
That's really helpful. That's really practical advice.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
I know the answer to this question, but I think it would be interesting for everyone to hear. I know something that you've cared a lot about is making sure that Muncie is a large part of your properties, and that the people who are coming to Muncie are getting involved in the community and maybe wanting to stay. So could you speak a little bit about how you make a sense of place in your properties to set you apart?
Yeah, so that was something that I was really trying to figure out how to like bridge that gap. Like I had mentioned, I host a lot of construction workers. I host a lot of travel nurses that are here from anywhere from 10 weeks to 11 months. And then also the city has this huge initiative for remote workers to come and move to Muncie for tax benefits. It's like there's a lot of different things. But also when your parents come to town, they don't know where to eat, and they don't know, you know, what to do and what's free and fun and cool. So I've created like these different like tourism guides in each of the houses, and I just have like a leather book that, you know, has my top favorite places to eat, and then it has my favorite locally owned places to eat, free things or cool things that they can do in the city, just different resources just to kind of help them like, okay, I'm here, but where's my meal prep service, and I'm a nurse and don't want to cook for myself. Okay, well, here it is. And these are my favorite gyms, or the, you know, just different stuff like that. So whatever you're interested in this little book at the desk, it will, like if you look at it, it'll tell you. But I also have a digital copy that gets sent to everyone as well, just because sometimes digital is easier, but the concrete book also looks cute on the desk. So definitely the visitor's guide, I feel like, has been huge in like getting people connected and like, oh my gosh, Fire Up Downtown's this weekend. I didn't even know. I came to town for, again, maybe a dog show. Okay, let's go do that and get some ice cream and see what's happening. Why are all these hot air balloons around, you know? So yeah, just having like a link to the city's calendar of events and stuff like that.
So just making it more personal.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like if you have a positive stamp of like, not only did I come to do this, but I also got to enjoy this like awesome cuisine, or go to this unique like niche event where, you know, the Glick Center for Glass is having their art show. Like, I would not have done that, but now I feel like more connected to this place, and my footprint is like, you know, the little stamp in my brain is way cooler than if I just stayed at the Marriott and stayed and ate there, you know? So it gets them out in the community more, I think, for sure.
Questions? Anybody else? Do we have one? No. I have a question for you. How do you handle, you think about relationships, you think about your influence on other people, their influence on you. People will inevitably let us down at times, and we let people down.
Right.
How do you navigate that?
Neutral / positivity. A lot of times, like, you can be people can be very negative, just like in general, whether it's personal or business related. And if you meet that with at least neutrality and don't escalate the situation, everyone, I feel like, leaves like in a better position, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Any other questions? Last chance. I'm okay with silence. Are we good? Okay. All right.
Woo.
Join me in not congratulating, but thanking Meeka for coming.
Thank you.
All right, if you're in my class, make sure that you turn in your